Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we are playing as Blue Baby. And Blue Baby is really one of those characters that I enjoy playing very much. One fact is that he is kind of restricted, that he cannot use red health, and that means that a lot of combinations of items or maybe just technical things that you can do in the game that rely on you getting hit are much more difficult to pull off. So I think that gives Blue Baby a very unique way of approaching the game that doesn't make him too difficult, but it also provides some benefits to it, like you always have boss trap rooms open and you can always afford to pick up red health or items that would give you red health and they just give you spirit hearts. And another consequence of that is that you can also abuse the Polaroid as much as you want without worrying. So in one sense, Blue Baby is very restricted, at least early on, but as you go later down the road and you start getting some items that kind of work well with him, then Blue Baby becomes really interesting. And another fact I like about him, there's just a little touch of maybe better sensibility, I guess, to use the character, is the fact that he has just a slightly higher damage multiplier than Isaac, which means that it doesn't make any actual difference when you're fighting the enemies. Against bosses, it just feels like you're killing them just a bit faster than you do with Isaac. And the fact that we also got a damage upgrade here is also exemplifies that just a little bit more, which means that that it wasn't too big of an issue here. But of course, because when you're playing as Blue Baby, those blue hearts can never come, and the fact that you don't have an easy way to regenerate health can really end up messing you. So, like for example here, I use my Joker card to teleport to the Devil Deal, and it contained Krampus luckily. But the floor actually contained a Tinted Rock, which of course had a good chance of containing the Spirit Heart, and if this Devil Deal actually had any Devil Deals inside, any items, we wouldn't be able to pick them up because they all cost 3 health and only had 3 health, so that means if I did decide to pick them up, I would end up dying. So that was kind of a mistake on my part, but at the same time we got really lucky that we were actually able to fight Krampus, and just for that fact you really have to be careful with your health. Like even us getting hit once here means that we won't be comfortable enough to pick up any actual Devil Deals if we do get any decent ones. But thankfully, because we do have that Krampus's head, I'm kinda in a more lenient spot to take a Devil Deal here, especially if it's very good. And I think that Spirit of the Night, which gives us health and spectral tears, will greatly improve, first of all, our survivability, and also our way to kinda generate more Spirit Hearts, because we're able to fly over rocks to get to spots that we otherwise wouldn't be able to get without bombs. And so for that reason, I think it's worth it to kinda risk your health for flight, because it does give you that defense. And even though we only have 1 Spirit Heart left, I'm feeling kinda comfortable because we did get 2 damage ups early on. We do have the Krampus's head to kinda take out bosses a bit easier, and at the same time we do have also spectral tears, which allow us to kinda shoot enemies over rocks, which otherwise of course would be a big problem for us. But like I said, at this point I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the situation, just because we did get the damage up, so it's much easier to deal with enemies. And like I said, we do have the head of Krampus for bosses. And one annoying thing that you kinda can't rely on Head of Krampus anymore as the boss killer is just the fact that it spins. Well, it's still possible, it's much harder to kinda aim your shots in a way to maximize the damage output. So for that reason, maybe I wouldn't count on the Head of Krampus as the ultimate boss killing item, but of course when you don't have anything else, it's usually what it ends up being. Sometimes I'll use it on easier floors, but the fact that it has a 6-round charge kind of puts a damper on things, which means that I don't use it as often as I would like. And for that reason, I decided to kind of toss it away here. Maybe not toss it away, but I will replace it with the glitched item, which teleports you randomly to the treasure room, to the shop, I think to the shop, to the secret room or the second secret room. And we'll see how that goes, or to the error room, of course, that's my main goal. Here we have Curse of the Blind, so we don't see our items, but I still decide to go for it and pick up both items. Like I said, I am feeling pretty comfortable here because of the fact that we do have the flight and some damage ups, and I'm feeling rather strong at this point, and I'm not too afraid to kind of play with 1 Spirit Heart for the chance to kind of get a very good item, like Brimstone, maybe Mom's Knife, anything like that would be, of course, very beneficial to us. And luckily this floor did have some health, so we're not in too dire of a position. And here what ends up happening, thankfully, is we do get the error room, and that is something that we'll only be able to use on this floor and the next one, because after that one comes Mom. And of course, if you do use this item on the mom floor and we get the ever room, then we can't fight boss rush. So maybe if you use it after boss rush, that would be a possibility. But we certainly can't use it before that, because that means that we're gonna go to the next floor, and that's not something we want to do, at least not before we beat boss rush. And thankfully, because we also did get that orbital, the cube of meat, our time is not too much of an essence, because if things go wrong or if you find kind of a bad path, we can always rely on that to start dealing a lot of damage and killing enemies faster. And also it will be very useful against Mom. Like I always say, having an orbital against Mom is something that kind of guarantees that you'll be able to beat her in under a minute, certainly, but I would say even under 30 seconds. And because, like I said, we only did get 2 damage up items and 1 tears up items, and while that's good for the maybe first 4 floors, it kind of starts getting pretty bad on the 5th floor. So I'm kind of in a very unique bad position here, in the fact that our tear rate is not very high at all, so our overall DPS is just not very good. Which means that I kind of have to be more mindful of how many rooms I visit, and the fact that I kind of have to go be at Mom at 20 minutes to get to boss rush. So that's why I decided I don't want to explore the last floor anymore, and at 16 minutes I just decide to go to the next floors to hopefully find Mom in time, and still have some time to kind of visit my item room and shops and things like that, without having to kind of rely on getting lucky with the way I explore rooms as much as, of course, in this scenario. So this time I just find the Mom, but of course, because I kind of explored everything I want to explore, the shop and the item room, I just decide to fight her. And also the fact, like I said, we are not very strong, so I'm expecting boss rush to take a while, so we'll see how that'll go. I think the right decision here would definitely be to take Lusty Blood, which would increase our damage for this room for every enemy we kill. But what I decided doing is kind of going for more of a Hail Mary play and taking the D6, because I thought, maybe, Lusty Blood won't be good enough to carry us to Hush, because while we would certainly be a lot stronger for boss rush, fighting the basic enemies wouldn't be as useful, just in the fact that, of course, we would have to keep killing enemies to gain more damage, and that's kind of something that you can do a lot in the later floors. So that's why I decided to go for the D6, and based on that, I try to reroll the remaining spacebar item into something that would be so strong that I would be able to kill boss rush and then, of course, get to Hush in the time I have to get to him. But sadly, of course, that didn't happen, even though I rerolled 2 items at once. One of them could have been at least good, but none of them were even worth picking up. So that was a bit unfortunate at the same time. But at the same time, like I said, the safer option there would definitely be Lusty Blood. And while I'm not sure if we would be able actually to get to Hush, I think we would have a much better chance of doing that if we did take Lusty Blood. But how I did it, I took the D6, so I still have some possibilities here to maybe get a super strong item from a Devil Deal maybe, and that will then allow us to kind of go forward. I was kind of in an unfortunate position in this room because I couldn't really dodge up or down just because of the way the enemies moved. Because the meats move randomly, he blocked off the only exit, and that's one thing. I know one thing that people want changed, that you wouldn't have this immediate or guaranteed damage rooms. Just because AI of enemies is different, what ends up happening, someone doesn't doesn't end up in that position, so that means that they won't get hit, and I did, just because of randomness. And that kind of adds up over time, because there are multiple instances of that which can happen on a run, and someone can get a bit luckier and someone can get a bit unluckier, and that ends up for a big discrepancy score at the end. But at the same time, Isaac is inherently a bit of a random game, and I think you can't really remove rooms like this without making the game a little too stale. I think it's fun that you have different rooms with different difficulties that benefit different kinds of items you have. And sometimes, you're gonna get blocked by a meat enemy just in the way to kind of block your exit, and that's gonna happen, you're gonna get hit. But at the same time, this is kind of the charm of Isaac. It's not getting hit once won't end your run, and I think that's what's important. If this happens so frequently that you would just die unfairly, I think that would be a problem. But just the fact that it happens maybe once, twice on a run, then it means that if you're kind of playing well enough, you kind of reduce that chance of it happening even further. I mean, the fact, of course, like I said, that people can do streaks that are over 100 indicates the fact that this is a much more skillful game than one it seems. But of course, that 1 in 100 run will kind of screw you over, and you'll need some real miracle to get out of that one. But of course, like I said, it can happen, and it's not just... I think that's what makes the game interesting, you know, just going for that trick and just having a super difficult run that either you try to conquer, and of course it's great if you succeed, but if you don't, you know, you have other challenges that you kind of face. So back to the run here. Thankfully I did reroll the one item and got that shot, and that shot is a great item. It's a very good damage up, one of the best items that got added in the latest DLC, and the more you shoot an enemy, the more damage you have, or the more shots you land, the more damage you deal, and that's very helpful against bosses first, because they're usually stationary targets which you hit multiple times, and also it's helpful against enemies because the boost doesn't just disappear immediately. You kind of have to miss one shot and then another one, so that makes it a bit more lenient to use, and for that reason, and the damage boost is actually very significant, so it's much easier to kill enemies. And here, sadly, I can do it on this boss, and Daddy Longlegs is one of the bosses I hate, well, not hate, but dislike the most. Like, did you see how his head kind of dropped down from that point? I'm not sure if I maybe went in the wrong direction to dodge that, but it seemed like his head drop was instant, and I there's no way I could have dodged that with the speed I had. So I think if I had more speed, then it would be doable, but because I did pick a bucket of lard, kind of accidentally, I ended up in this situation. Even though I did get a speed up, I just hate playing slow. I remember back in the day I actually hated playing fast because I thought it made you kind of more vulnerable. But at the same time, I feel like at this point I'd rather go much faster than really slow, because that's... being slow is what ends up getting me killed. Being too fast sometimes ends up getting me hit, but it doesn't get up ending me killed. So I think that's a better proposition for me to just get hit and not killed. So I really should have just stopped exploring, because what ends up happening sometimes is I feel like I finished the run and I keep exploring, and then I end up getting hit like 50 times for no reason at all. And that's so unfortunate. I think I got hit like 4 times in this, and even the last room hit me one more time. And those are 8 hearts of damage, and that just bumped my damage penalty by like 1500. So that was a bit unfortunate, and we didn't utilize our Jarrow rune in a very good way, but still, what it is, what it is. So we ranked 60th for the day, and I think it's a decent run, not too good. I think that a lot of people won't make it to Hush or Boss Rush, either or. And, well, I'm just interested to see how this goes, because any run that is kind of weak at the start and shows vulnerability in getting to those objectives usually ends up with big discrepancies. Like, some people find very good items, they are able to do it and they have a lot of score, and some people like me don't find those items, and then they end up just being like this. But still, I think the rank 60th is actually decent, and that's how it's gonna go down. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.